Our guest this week is Dr. Jawad Al-Mulla. Jawad is a member of the Kurdish National Congress. We'll be talking about the situation in Iraq, about the situation in Syria, and about Kurdish aspirations for statehood. Well, welcome back to the English Hour on ANN Satellite Television. Our guest today is Dr. Jawad Al-Mulla, President of the Kurdish National Congress. He's a wonderful friend, a good man, a great champion for the Kurdish cause. Jawad, it's great to have you with us, and we'll be talking today about Kurdistan, about Kurdish aspirations to statehood, about the situation in Syria, and about the situation in Iraq. Before we begin, we'll just go to a short video clip and then we'll start our discussion. Dr. Jawad Al-Mulla. The Syrian conflict between Bashar al-Assad's government and armed opposition groups is constantly evolving. The rebel groups opposing al-Assad's government are deeply divided and fight their own battles over power and access to resources. The Syrian civil war has developed into a brutal proxy war with significant involvement by both regional and international actors. In an attempt to dissolve the political deadlock, the international community has made various attempts to bring the different factions to the negotiating table. Profiting from the country's volatility, ISIS extremists have managed to take over control of large swathes of territory. Since the 2003 US-led war in Iraq, the country has seen increasing sectarian tension, which contributed to the success of extremist militia groups, including ISIS. The deep-rooted grievances of Iraq's Sunni community, who felt oppressed by the former Shia-dominated central government under Prime Minister Nouri Maliki, has led to a growing support for extremists. Since ISIS established its strongholds on Iraqi soil, the country has again become the center of attention of external governments, international organizations, and the media. Iran has joined international efforts to counter the ISIS threat. The Kurdish struggle for statehood has a long history and remains an ever-present issue, especially in those countries with large Kurdish minorities such as Turkey and Iraq. Growing political instability in Iraq opened up a new opportunity for Iraqi Kurds. Led by the Kurdish regional government under Masoud Barzani, they enhanced their efforts to achieve political independence. The ISIS threat has bolstered Kurdish aspirations for statehood, as Kurdish Peshmerga fighters are taking a strong role in the fight against these insurgents. So, Dr. Jawad Al-Mulla, welcome and thank you for being with us today on ANN Television. Jawad, we have much to talk about.
Thank you very much, William, for this opportunity. I am very pleased to have this meeting with you and the people watching us through the television. Thank you for everybody participated with this program.
Well, let's talk a bit about, if we may, I mean, there's so much to cover, but let's talk a little first about Syria, the situation. It's your homeland. You're Kurdish, but you're Syrian-born, and it's in acute difficulty at the moment, isn't it, as a nation?
Yes, it is. I born in Syria, but it's not my homeland.
Well, Kurdistan is your homeland.
Kurdistan is my homeland.
But you were born in
Syria.
Kurdish Syria.
In Syria,
Yes.
I born in Damascus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. And originally we came from Kurdistan of Turkey, from northern of Turkey, after the collapsing, the revolution of Kurdistan there of 1925. We ran away from there because my grandfather participated with that revolution.
Yes, he was quite a political figure, your
Yeah.
grandfather,
Yeah.
and indeed your father.
And my father as well. Later
Yeah.
on, he
Yes.
participated in the revolution of Ararat in 1930. And later on, with the French mandate, tried with Prince Jawad Al-Badr Khan, my father,
Okay.
to establish a Kurdish state, because the French, they had a policy to establish Damascus state, Aleppo state,
Yes, indeed.
Alawite state,
Yeah.
Durzi's states, and Prince Jawad Badr Khan and my father try to have Kurdish state in the north of Syria.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
The policy that be changed, the French mandate, they changed their mind, and they started, my father and Prince Jawad Badr Khan, to do something different afterward. They established many Kurdish clubs.
But moving forward to now, I mean, the whole
Yeah.
situation now is in a state of dramatic crisis, isn't it? In Kurdish Syria, they're under terrible pressure.
Yes, all the time we are under pressure. Never during, since the Kurds become under Syrian state, which do you know that the Sykes-Picot agreement
Divided the Middle East.
the Middle East.
Yes, between French and British
they
areas.
divided the Middle East. They created 22 states for the Arabs,
Yes.
but they didn't create one
I
single
know.
one single
we
state
will
for the Kurds.
Come back to the issue of Kurdish statehood,
Yeah.
which we will address in detail.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about the situation, the present crisis in Syria
Yeah.
for the Kurdish people. I mean, your Kurdish people are based in northern Syria, and you have areas like Kamishli, you have famously Kobani, you have Kurdish.
The Kurdish area in Syria,
Yeah.
all the way from the border of Iraqi Kurdistan
Yeah.
to the Mediterranean Sea,
Yeah.
north of Latakia city.
Right.
North of Latakia city, we have the Kurdish mountain until now.
Right.
His name, Kurdish mountain.
And
In the north of Latakia, on the seaside, Mediterranean seaside.
and the Kurds in Aleppo and in Damascus as well.
As Aleppo and Damascus, Hama,
Yeah.
more than 70% of Hama are Kurds.
Really, historically.
Has more than 70%. They say that it is the Barazi tribe there, but no, it is more than 5-6 tribes in Hama.
Really? Well, now tell me, the present struggle, I mean, the most dramatic
Yeah.
struggle has been, in recent months, has been that around Kobani, hasn't it?
Yes.
Tell us a little about this situation.
The situation is very complicated because this ISIS, this organization, be created by the Islamist,
Yes.
fundamentalist and extremists,
Yes.
Islamists, and the Arab nationalists together.
Some say this, the Baathists, or at least elements of the Iraqi Baath, have joined
Yes,
with ISIS. Yes.
Deputy of Saddam Hussein, Azat Ibrahim al-Duri.
Is it al-Duri?
He's
Yes.
one of the leaders of ISIS.
Yes, effectively, yes.
Yeah.
I have heard this, yes,
That
indeed.
means the Ba'athist, the Islamist, all together, joined together after Mr. Masoud Barzani announced that he is going to have a referendum for the Kurds in Iraqi Kurdistan to have Kurdish state.
Again, an issue we'll return to, but you're suggesting, I mean,
And
the
this-
genesis of ISIS
This
is,
ISIS started fighting against the Kurds after this talking.
but their initial, I mean, yes, and some
Yeah.
of their initial fighting in Iraq was against the Kurds, but just to deal with the situation, the crisis in Syria,
Yeah.
Kobani, this group now has threatening Kobani, has been threatening Kobani, and this ongoing struggle has been terrible for the Kurds.
Yes, it is terrible, but the attack of ISIS not success. It is the Kurds now, until now, controlling Kobani.
Really? Genuinely,
yes.
they're still holding out?
Now the war of ISIS and the Kurds, it is more than about 2 months It is,
Yes,
and the Iraqi army in Mosul, they couldn't stop 24 hours. They ran away front of ISIS.
Well, it's certainly a courageous
when the Kurds stay
in Kobani,
fighting in Kobani for 2 months, that means the Kurds, the winners.
Well, we hope, but it is a tragic situation, one that's not helped by Turkey, because Turkey is taking a very difficult position, isn't it?
Turkey, the Western countries as well, joined this war.
But Turkey joined it almost on ISIS side, wouldn't you say? I mean, there have been...
The whole countries in the world on ISIS side.
You would say.
Yes.
But Jawad, they cannot, I mean, the whole countries of the world are standing against ISIS.
No, they're talking against ISIS.
Well,
but actually, they're supporting ISIS.
Why do you say this? Because
yes,
we're bombing ISIS?
The Allied bombing ISIS, but they don't bombing ISIS. About more than 2,500 raids of the Allied against ISIS.
Yes.
If they bomb them by chocolate, ISIS will be finished. That means it is something something behind the curtain.
We feel passionately that ISIS is an awful organization, one which is an anathema to almost every Western Christian. No, but you must understand this, Jawad. I don't think for one moment any British, any American citizen would have even remote support for this horrendous organization. Whether our policy is correct is a different matter, and I would agree with you that our policy in fighting ISIS is inadequate, but the way we do not support ISIS in any way, shape or form, it's horrendous to us.
Regarding to the Home Office here in Britain, they say that more than 1,000 British, they left Britain.
Absolutely.
Not regarding
You're correct.
The Home Office, they say more than 1,000 British, they left Britain, they joined ISIS.
They did.
And 2 weeks ago,
yes, you're right.
ITV, the British television, ITV, they contact with me. They asked me to have interview with me about a girl in Hackney area. They left Britain. They joined the Kurdish.
And you would think that she should be praised for it.
I told them, go away to the lady to contact me by telephone. You want to show the British people that if you lose your girls in Britain, that means the Kurds, they took it. No, I don't do it. Go to see the thousands of people of British, they joined the ISIS, not the Kurds.
Yes, exactly. It is extraordinary, and it is actually a great, sad indictment of the world that these disaffected people, not only from Britain, but you're right, at least 1,000 from Britain, but there are 3,000 from Libya, 50 from Melbourne in Australia. You know, there are ISIS fighters from all over the world, Chechens and Russians, there are many different groups coming in, people who are disaffected and angry, and yet what an indictment that they're joining this terrible group. You're right, in that sense, there are Britons supporting them.
Because they have money. The money of Saddam Hussein group.
They have money.
The money of Bin Laden. They now big investment with ISIS, they do it.
And they are getting considerable financial support in other ways. They've been selling oil to Turkey. They've been raising taxes on trucks across the border.
And the money of Saddam Hussein and Bin Laden both came from United States.
Well,
because Saddam Hussein fought 8 years against Iran.
You can go Iraq is an oil-producing country. The United States does not need to fund, has never needed to fund Iraq. I think that is really flawed. Bin Laden, historically, if you go back when we were fighting the Russians,
Yeah.
Yes, then bin Laden
And be
was supported in those days. But having said that, he is now anathema to us, and we never needed to fund him. He's one of the wealthiest families in Saudi Arabia and a great oil-producing nation. So he's an enormously personally wealthy man. So he was never funded by the West. That's a mistake.
Maybe that. I want to tell you something about the whole world supporting ISIS, just talking against ISIS, just talking. But actually, they supporting. Exactly. I will give you an example. Exactly as how the Western countries, more than 3 years, they say that Bashar Assad, he lost his situation as a president because killing his people, but talking only.
The West
and
campaign.
3 years they stay in the power. But they talking is lost as his idol. But when they want to finish somebody as Colonel Gaddafi, in 3 months they finish. When they talking 3 years, that means they are not.
You look at Libya today, Libya's in civil war.
Yeah.
You look at Iraq today, Iraq's in civil war. You look at Afghanistan, it's an incipient civil war. You look at Syria, it's in civil war. We have meddled through the Middle East and trying to remove presidents and interfere in governments. The credibility of our actions is questionable. At the end of the day, the Middle East is in tatters. And now we have this emergent group, ISIS, the most frightening organization, which has an agenda to move on Mecca and Medina, and they announce it publicly. They are extraordinary.
I see ISIS as a sales representative of the American weapons.
I think you're...
When they move ISIS into Anbar, near from the Jordanian border. Next day, Jordanian, they bought millions of pounds. They moved the ISIS to Hawler. Next day, the Kurds, they bought millions of dollars weapons from America.
It's a very cynical way of viewing it, but I don't disagree with you.
Sales representative of the weapons. Because in America,
do without such a sales representative, I promise you.
In America, they have more than 20 million people working in weapons industrial.
Well,
that means more than 200 million people in America live on an industrial weapon.
One of the great shames of the Western world is not just America, but Britain, France, the Western nations in general, are arms suppliers to the whole international community, and we feed off this blood money. You are right, but I don't think for one moment any of us want to see ISIS flourish in any shape or form. It is an anathema even to us, even to the most green-eyed, greedy, money-grubbing amongst us. It is still an absolute horror to us that this organization, this group, this whatever, is emerging on the scene. To see these young men executed in this brutal way, and they've executed countless numbers of Kurds, of Arabs, of others, but to... It's just
I see the situation. It is very strange situation. Many people, they say it is ISIS terrible, ISIS bad organization.
Jawad.
But the Kurds, more than 1,400 years, live in this situation.
Well, that may be...
Since the Islam come to Kurdistan, we faced genocides. We have graveyard of the Muslims in Kurdistan, 2,000 meters long. Do you know?
Well, let's talk
until now,
about...
You can go and see.
We don't need to talk too much about history because the situation now is a crisis for the Kurds.
The situation of ISIS, not new.
Yeah.
It is 1,400 years. It is over the Kurds. They killing the Kurds as
well, let's
ISIS.
Talk a little about... Let's shift a little from Syria. We've touched on Syria. Maybe we have to come back to it. But Iraq also, the Kurds in Iraq have faced a crisis with ISIS.
Yeah.
We've had the staggering issue of the Sinjar Mountains and the the defeat, the terrible defeat the Kurds faced in Sinjar. They've gained back now the Mosul Dam. They've gained back some areas of Iraq. But there seems to be a stalemate. The Kurds are not able to retake Sinjar. They're having great difficulty fighting this group. Do you feel they're getting sufficient? I mean, you say they're not getting sufficient support from the West. The bombing is very difficult to bomb people running around on motorbikes and pickup trucks and so on, but we try. But the difficulty with the bombing is that there's so much collateral damage. When we bombed the villages around the Mosul Dam to drive the fighters out, we also drive the population out. I mean, it is a terrible thing. And we become the enemies of the people. This is the problem. You start bombing these insurgents, and they're in built-up civilian areas, and we become the. What do you want us to do? You want troops on the ground? What do you want?
I don't say that the people of Middle East, they have no any problem, no any guilt about their situation. But I think and I stress about the Western countries, the major problem, they create major problem for the
So what should we
Western.
do now with regard to ISIS? What should we be doing now? ISIS has taken the whole of Sunni Iraq and a major swathe of Syria. What should we do about this crisis? You want us to go in on the ground?
Should the Western country change their policy?
Which policy? You mean allowing these people to go?
No.
To fight?
The policy of Western countries started in the last century.
No, but now, what do you want us to do now? We can go back into history, and our listeners will go to sleep if we talk too much history.
Leave the history then. Now, the policy of Western country today.
Yeah, what
they created in each country 2 or 3 heads, and they don't allow them to separate each other from each other, to stay together in one state, and they make everybody strong in one state to fight each other, to buy weapon from them. They started this as a trap. They draw a trap for everybody. They started with the best friends of America, Israel. They trapped them with Hamas.
But
the Israeli, they hit the Palestinian in Jordanian, in Lebanon, in the Palestinian ran away to Tunisia. Maybe another hit, they will go to South America. But the American advised them, no, leave him to come back to Palestine. This is a trap. Now, 2.5 streets in Gaza, this great state of Israel, they couldn't manage anything or sort it out the Gaza problem. That means they not Israel, not the Palestinian in trap. The Israeli in trap now.
The Israelis may be in a self-created trap, but that's not the issue we're talking about. The issue we're talking about is Kurdistan, Iraq.
Let me come to Syria and Iraq.
Yeah.
During 1,000 years ago,
you're going back
until now, the Sunnis ruling Iraq.
Yes. Okay.
The British Empire, they make the Sunnis as well as a ruler, the Kurds and Shia as opposition.
Okay.
The Americans, they came in this century. They make all 3 rulers.
Yes.
And when we had last century, 1 ruler and 2 opposition, the result of it was 2 million people lost their life.
So what do you want?
This situation, maybe more than 3 million or 4 million people will lose their life.
So you want a confederal Iraq with 3 different states?
To be states, separate states.
Separate
the Shiite, the Sunnis, the Kurds. Because the Sunnis.
Do you want an independent Kurdish Iraq, an independent Sunni Iraq, independent Shiite Iraq? And then you think your problems will go away?
We'll sort it out the problem, but the big problem for America, nobody will buy weapons from America.
You
There's
want
a
the
problem.
partition of Iraq is what
Yes.
you are arguing
Yes,
for.
sure.
Into 3 pieces.
No other way.
No other way.
No.
Okay. So, and this, you feel, will resolve the present crisis if we have the breakup of Iraq?
After 100 years, if we genuine people accept their neighbors, accept the right of their neighbors, will be united again. But in this situation, the Sunnis impossible to accept that they have any partner in Iraq ruling Iraq.
So this
don't accept.
Acceptable? Fine. Let's say that we see the breakup of Iraq into three separate nations: the Kurdish nation, the Sunni nation, and the Shiite nation. Okay, you're going to try and apply the same policy in Syria? You can't apply the same policy in Syria. How can you?
The Alawite should have a state.
There are a million.
The Durzis should have their own state. The Kurds should have their own states.
But Syria is intertwined. You have 1 million Kurds in Aleppo. You have 1 million Kurds in Damascus.
Aleppo itself is a Kurdish city.
Well, there you go. What are you going to do? You can't separate out the Kurds and the Sunnis. You're going to divide Aleppo into 3 countries.
During thousands of years, they become
Never
Arabs.
mind the history. The situation now
the Ba'athist, they have many plans to make the Kurdistan, Syria, Kurdistan, Arab.
How can you fragment Aleppo into different? Actually, it's interesting because in a way, this new UN negotiator has been pushing, De Mello has been pushing for a freeze in Aleppo, which will, in a sense, give you exactly what you want. He wants little mini states in Aleppo. But it's going to be a very fragmented Kurdistan if you go that route. You'll have 1 district of Aleppo. You'll have areas up the north around Idlib and so on.
No, this is one piece.
How 1 piece? You can't have 1 piece.
It is 1 piece from the border of Iraqi Kurdistan to the Mediterranean Sea.
And
it is 1 piece.
And all of this area, there are areas in there, Raqqa and so on, and you're going to conclude...
Yes.
You're going to include Raqqa in Kurdistan?
Yes. More than 50% of Raqqa
And what about the other 50%? Are they going to
They come as a police, as a secret police of Syria. They come recently. They come to Syria.
So what, you're going to make them refugees? You're going to throw them out?
I welcome them to live in Kurdistan state.
You are talking, you're talking hugely divisive idea.
I want to tell you something.
If you have your way, Syria will be in a war for decades. How can you...
Yes, sure, because now 40 years under the Ba'athist.
You want another 40 years of war, Jawad Al-Mulla?
Will be more because everybody say that me and
we've had enough fighting.
Me and the rest nothing. It is the policy of the Ba'athist.
And who is going to rule this new Kurdish state? You have now within the Kurdish movement, you have a kind of a great division between what we call the PKK, the PYD in Syria, and what we call the KDP, those loyal to Barzani. So the Kurdish people themselves have two major factions. There are other minor factions because Talabani and the PUK, well, bless his heart, Talabani's gone now, but the PUK and so on is another issue. And you have Goran, you have all these different factions, but majorly there are 2 major power blocks amongst the Kurds, and they don't make peace. Yeah. You'll end up fighting each other.
William.
Yeah.
1964. I was member of KDP of Syria.
Yes.
And in that time, it was only Kurdish party in Syria. All these parties being created, the majority of them, I don't say all of them, but the majority of them being created by the Ba'athist, to make division between the Kurds, to fight each other, to be against each other. Do you know the strongest party in Middle East? It was the Syrian Communist Party. Very strong.
Yes.
The Ba'athist, they make it for Communist Party.
Yes.
And communist, it is international movement. International movement. They have many people support them, but the Kurds, nobody support the Kurds. Do you know?
Yeah.
And they create now it is for Kurdish
I think it's a Middle Eastern disease, because the Baathists themselves, clever people though they may be, have themselves split. And they're split into Iraqi Baath, Syrian Baath, and the Syrian Baath are split into the pro-government, and there are even anti-government Syrian. The Baath party is as fragmented as everything else. Yeah. I note say there are some big blocks, because Izzat Aduri's bloc is a big bloc, but and of course Bashar al-Assad represents a major bloc, but there are other elements of the Baath party who would be loyal to other figures, and we've seen it. I mean, we know it. So, this is part of the Middle Eastern scene, no? You are talking of the Kurds. You talk of any major group in the Middle East.
In Europe 50 years ago, everybody wants to swallow the land of his neighbor. Yes. During the communists, during the Nazis, and they built a Berlin Wall.
Yes.
The borders between East Germany and West Germany, it was very difficult. I've been in there in 1972.
And the Israelis and the Palestinians have their own Berlin Wall. It's an approach, and before we know long, we'll have a Berlin Wall between the Sunnis and the Kurds.
When people they want to kill each other, they build walls. Here in Hadrian Wall in Britain.
Yes, we had our
walls. Because the Scots, they
the Scots were frightening us, and we built a wall.
Built a wall.
They still frighten us, I'll tell you now. But still, anyway.
Yes. So great China Wall, and many walls. Why being built these walls? To protect your nation. And now, should in Syria and Iraq build wall, not exactly wall, physically wall, to separate each other, until be
you want this.
People,
you want this
and become understand that they have a neighbor, they have a right as you. Then it is impossible to swallow the right and the land of other people. When the Europeans they understand this situation, they demolished the Berlin Wall. They demolished the borders. Their currency become one.
So you would argue, for example, Jawad, in terms of Syria, you would argue that things should go back to the way it was in the early days of the French Mandate, when you had an Alawite state, you had all these different little places. States. Yes, I mean a Druze state. So. This, of course, this carve-up was part of the Sykes-Picot Agreement between the British and the French, which left us with this, well, I would say with this mess in Syria. But you want a fragmented Syria. I mean, how do you see this?
It is naturally, when you have artificial states, in the end will be collapsed, as Soviet Union being collapsed and created about 10 states, national states.
The Soviet Union was big.
Yugoslavia became 7 states.
Yeah, Yugoslavia is the exact example. Yugoslavia, a country perhaps the size of Syria, is fragmented into many small states. Some of them very small. I mean, very small indeed. And you're talking. Do you really want this future for Syria?
100%. In the end. After a while, after years or decades, if we become genuine people to accept the right of their neighbors, because the human, it is much more important than the country. Human, during if you go to the Bible, Quran, and all religions in the world, their aim, the human, The human more important than the law, more important than the country and the stone and the trees.
You may get your wish, of course, the way Syria is going. I'm
If
not sure
if the people they
hope
killing
for it
each
myself.
other every day,
Yeah.
should be separated. Should be separated until be genuine people.
And
Make
meanwhile-
Middle East will make in the end Middle East as a European Union.
But this is only half of
Yeah.
your dream, because the other half of your dream is a greater Kurdistan. You want
Yes.
to see unity, not just between Syrian Kurdistan and Iraqi Kurdistan, but you want
Yeah.
Turkish Kurdistan and Iranian Kurdistan to be brought in, so you have one nation. This is your...
It is natural because the Kurdish nation in Iran or in Turkey or Iraq or in Syria, they are one nation being separated by artificial borders created by, in 1916 by Sykes and Biko, the French ambassador in Beirut and the diplomat,
Yes.
British.
Yes,
They
yes.
created by these people, and I have very nice. I remember when these borders. If you see the Jordanian border, it is as with rulers. They cut it with rulers straight and go suddenly to right, suddenly
Yeah.
go to left. Why? Because in that time during the first war, the British Minister of Colonies was Mr. Winston Churchill. He drew the map of Middle East, and he was famous as a heavy drunkard.
Well, that's true.
And he had hiccup, and his pen went left and right without any reason, and cut Kurdistan into 4 or 5 pieces without any reason.
Poor Winston Churchill and his whiskey. He is the problem for Kurdistan. Well, perhaps you're right. Who knows now? But nonetheless, I mean, the Kurdish nation is divided. I mean, possibly the largest numbers of Kurds are in Turkey. There are huge numbers there. I don't know how many million, 25 million or more. It's difficult to know, but it's huge, the number of Kurds in Turkey, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The whole nation in Kurdistan may be more than 50 million Kurds.
Okay, between Iran, Syria, and
yeah,
Iraq and
yeah.
Turkey.
William, it is if we sorted out the problem of Nail of Jeha.
I know the nail of, yes, this old Arab story.
Yeah, Jeha.
I was told it many years ago.
He said one day he want to sell his
house. Yes.
And his neighbor, he said, I will buy it. He said, okay, the house is all for you, just only a nail on the wall,
keeps the nail.
not allowed to touch it,
Yes.
not allowed to remove it.
Yes, exactly.
His neighbor, he said, okay, no problem, a nail in the on the wall,
let
no
Jawad
any problem.
nail.
He
That's
bought
right.
it.
Yes.
Next day and every day came his Jeha knocking the door, I want to see my nail.
Yes.
And Western countries, they created nails everywhere, from Hong Kong to Ireland. And we should, as a intellectual people of Middle East, should sort it out of the nail, should not allow any nail in our country.
So you
If
want
we
to get
sort-
rid of Western involvement in Iraq, in Syria, in Iran, in Turkey?
100%. Do you know?
And you think your problems will go away if you get rid of the Western involvement?
Many people, they said, until now, in the media, the Americans, they went to Vietnam and ran away. They went to Somalia and ran away. They went to Lebanon and ran away. To Afghanistan and ran
But the
away. But it is
nations-
actually, they never run away. The American, they go to any country, they create the problem they wanted, and they pull out. And the other
but
ordinary
it's
people,
all
they
very
think
well.
run away, but they are not run away. They are very clever.
They have the
They
nail.
play-
Yes,
They,
yes.
they
The nail
created
with
the
your
nail and
Yes.
go out.
But your problems won't end if the West stops interfering. I know we have interfered. I know we've caused many of the problems of Syria. But without our interference, even if we stopped tomorrow, I acknowledge, you're right. We caused many of Syria's problems. We caused many of Iraq's problems. But without our involvement, I mean, for example, Saddam Hussein would still be the ruling in Iraq. It's not entirely the West's fault. There are homegrown problems that you have that are not going to go away unless you can find a way to live in harmony with your neighbors. I mean, you and your neighbors have to find a way to live in harmony with you.
Never happens this harmony until every nation have their own country, their own parliament, government, army, border. And then after 50 years, 100 years, if they see it is suitable, good to become united as European Union, no problem.
You will have a lot of war between now and then in order to form your Kurdish state if you're going to hive off part of Turkey and hive off part of Iran.
Believe me, we'll sort it out in a couple of months.
Yes. Not so sure,
yes.
Jawad
But
Mullah.
Western country, when Mr. Masoud Barzani announced I want to have a referendum, in that day exactly, the foreign minister of United States visited him and he told him, no, we don't accept Kurdish state. In that day, the foreign minister of Britain visited Al-Maliki, the prime minister of Iraq, in the same day.
Yeah.
And they say, we don't accept, we
Oh,
want
very
Iraq,
well, but I mean,
we want Iraq to be united.
yeah.
So that's mean the Western countries, they are the first opinion. They have first opinion that they don't like the Kurdish state.
They have strong opinions. I think they are coming around to the concept of a confederal Iraq, an Iraq which is a confederal nation with major autonomous blocks. And they're clearly coming around to the idea, not that I particularly like it, of the fragmentation of Syria, which is what you advocate, because we see this in the policy being advocated by the UN negotiator who talks about these freezes, which are more than ceasefires, they're truce hudnas in the various areas, like starting with Aleppo, whereby they are dividing up Syria. I don't particularly like it. It's de facto what's happening.
Do you know it, William? Many people, they say that it is Western plan be done. No. The greediness of Syria, the greediness of Iraq and Iran and Turkey about Kurdistan, because Kurdistan is a very rich country. They don't like to give up to have a Kurdish state. That means the oil, the petrol of Iran, Turkey, Iraq, Syria, all come out from Kurdistan.
Yes.
The major water in Middle East, Tigris and Euphrates, come out from Kurdistan.
Well, that's certainly true.
The major,
yes,
major resources.
I think there are oil resources everywhere, but
Kurdistan.
Yes, but the
so
water
it is the greediness of these people. They don't like to give up this rich country, the rich resources. Let's go a little bit small story about the history.
No, not too
small,
much history.
Very small one.
It will.
The God when delivered the lands of everybody.
The God gave.
The God when delivered. They say that this nation have this land and this nation have this land. Everybody complained.
Yeah.
They said, why you give us? It is hot country. Other people they say, why you give us? It is cold country.
Yes.
Why you give us?
For us,
no,
we
no
live in
water.
a cold country.
Why you give the Kurds? Very, very nice mountains, rivers, everything they have it, and the weather, even the weather, it is
True.
Middle Eastern weather.
Yep.
It is not as a mountain of the Switzerland or Sweden. It is very cold. No, Middle Eastern weather and very nice mountain.
I'm jealous.
Yes,
absolutely.
Everybody say, why you give it? The God, he said, I delivered everything in equal. He said, how equal? Just no drop of water there, and they have Tigris and Euphrates there. He said, you don't know what bad neighbors, I give it to them. If you accept the neighbors of the Kurds, I will give you land as the Kurds.
Okay.
Nobody accepted, and we left in this situation.
For Kurdistan.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it does improve. Jawad Mullah, we haven't quite finished because our conversation, but thank you very much for being our guest. We're going to now we still have something to discuss because we have a book to talk about. But thank you so much for this time.
Thank you very much for you.
Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Jawad, you have brought us this book, Kurdistan and the Kurds, A Divided Homeland, A Nation Without a State. It's your own book. You have written it.
Yeah.
And indeed,
I wrote about 20 books.
Wow,
This
yes.
one of them.
Wow, this one is published by the Western Kurdistan Association, which is an organization
in London. Yeah.
right, in which you're very much
The
involved.
Syrian Kurds. Yeah. Western Kurdistan. It is Syrian Kurdistan.
Actually, the figure on the cover is your father,
Yes.
your late father, who
Yes,
was
in 1930. This picture, it is in 1930 during the Ararat Revolution.
wow. And this book, I mean, it is a powerful call for a Kurdish state and for what is your dream, but it's not just your dream. The dream of most Kurds
right, yeah.
alive today would advocate a Kurdish state, and would the sentiments expressed in this book are very much the sentiments that most Kurdish leaders have, even though they don't express them publicly in quite this way.
Yeah. This book, two parts inside. One part historically,
Sure.
how the Kurdistan be divided, how Kurdistan, the resources of Kurdistan be looted,
Absolutely.
how the occupiers of Kurdistan falsification of our history, our civilization, how they done
It's extraordinary because
ignored our identity.
because there was a Republic of Kurdistan in 1946.
That's right.
And this was in where, in eastern Kurdistan?
In eastern Kurdistan, in the end of the Second War.
Right.
Yeah. And
So-
all Kurds from Syria, Turkey, Iraq participated with that.
So historically, how long did that last?
11 months.
11 months. So it really was short-lived.
Exactly as the state of Balochistan. It is about 4 or 5 months as well.
So you really hope and dream that this will happen, and you will
have it one day.
Oh, bless you. And
We'll have it one day, one Kurdish state.
I do hope you are right. This book is available on Amazon. It's Kurdistan and the Kurds, A Divided Homeland, A Nation Without State by Dr. Jawad Mullah, published by the Western Kurdistan Association. Jawad, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you very much for you, William, and wishing you all the best. And I hope the people listen to us, have some information. If anybody needs any more questions, I am ready to answer.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Jawad. Bless
Thank
your
you very
heart.
much.
Many, many thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll shake you by the hand. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you.